Okay, so the class is being recorded, and for recording purposes, my name is Dr. Sami Abdel Jalil, and this is A230A. This is a very interesting course. I don't know whether you guys, out of curiosity, you have done some research, you spoke to colleagues who took the course. So how much do you know about A230A? What do you think we're doing? Are we doing math, for example, geography, history?
I think it's about plays, doctor.
Yeah,
Am I
part of
right?
it, yeah, you're right, yeah, Abdullah. Part of it is plays, part of it is perhaps a novel or a novella, part of it is poetry. And we're doing these things because this is, of course, English major and you're doing literature, and it's very important that you do all of that. Together with this, we're also doing them because they give us insights into the age in which they were written. They were, or they are rather, social and economic documents through which you can understand the age in which those pieces of work were written. This is actually what we're doing in order to fully understand those works and in order to fully appreciate them, we need to also do some digging into the time or the period, looking at the different social and political aspects of the age. Okay, so again, this is a very interesting course, interesting in the sense that we have a tapestry of works and they are varied. Like Abdullah said, at one point we're doing um, drama or plays. At some other points we're doing poetry, novels, and novellas. This is very interesting, the fact that you have different genres. And of course, by now you know what a genre is. We're going to delve deep into the periods that those works represent and talk about them and see how the different concerns and the different norms of the age are reflected in those pieces of work. In this sense, this course is very similar to a course that you have taken previously and before. Actually, it can be also, I mean, the course that I'm talking about is perhaps a prerequisite to this course. It's 121N. Have you taken this course? Critical appreciation.
Yes, doctor, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. So if you still
Yes.
remember, the course also has this uh, um, a variety of genres where you did, I think, short stories, perhaps a small play, poetry, right? So these are things that we're also doing, but on a deeper level this time around. Now that you're obviously maturer, you're perhaps a year older and wiser, you're a year also senior. I mean, so obviously you now can get a grab on whatever we kept for you when we did EL 121N. Um, okay, so again, we're talking about covering a very huge terrain in terms of time and even in terms of space because we're moving between cities and townships and everything in between. So in terms of time, we're starting as early as the Middle Ages or the medieval period. It is true that we're not going to focus heavily on that period, but we're going to kind of revisit those times and see how different they are from other time periods. So we're going to start as early as the Middle Ages, and then we move on to the Renaissance or the Renaissance. which is the early modern times, and then we move to the 18th century, the Age of Reason, and then we end up with the early or the late 18th century and early 19th century, the age of the Romantics, Romanticism and the Romantic movement and everything in between. So these are the different time periods that we're crossing, that we're addressing. And in every and each of these periods will have a representative literary work. When we talk, for example, about the medieval period, we talk about mystery plays and morality plays, and we have this very famous play, Every Man. We're not doing Every Man, of course, but we're going to refer to it. And when we go to the Renaissance and when we focus primarily on the Elizabethan age in England, we'll have a play called Othello, and then we move to the Jacobean period, which is quite close to the Elizabethan age. We're having another play, The Duchess of Malfi, and then we move to the 18th century, and we have or we will have Candide, which is a novella by the French philosopher Voltaire. And then when we go to the early 19th century, we're doing the Romantics, and we're doing a number of poets and poems. We'll have Wordsworth, we will have Shelley, and it remains to be seen whether we're doing Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I'll tell you whether this is part of the calendar or not. So these are the things that we're doing. Again, it's a very huge terrain, like I said. It's a journey, a very interesting one where we're going to meet lots of philosophies, lots of ideas and ideologies. We may agree with some and we may not agree with others. We may like some of the plays that we do and we may not like others. We may like some of the characters and we may not. This is actually the nature of literature. Actually, this is the nature of life. You don't have to absolutely agree with everything, and you don't have to also disagree with everything. That's a mix of both. What I promise you is an interesting journey that is full of thought-provoking ideas, lots of engaging stories reflecting the complexity of human nature. We're going to navigate all of those things together, inshallah. So this is what we're doing in A230A, reading and studying literature A or 1. Uh, so do you have any questions so far?
No, doctor.
Why don't you come to the mic and share something about yourselves? I told you about myself, told you that my name is Dr. Sameh, told you that I'm here based in Jeddah. I teach literature, and I happen to be the department head here in Jeddah. I like philosophy, history, and literature, of course. So how about you? Come to the mic and share. Tell us about you. I really want to hear you and see, yani have like some kind of idea about your characters, how you think, and yeah, yeah. We need volunteers. Come to the mic and share. I'm not taxing, I'm not judging, but you don't have to be inhibited about anything. Yeah, who wants to share with us something about
Can I,
him?
doctor?
Yeah, yeah, Abdullah, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Abdullah. I'm 23. I'm next semester graduate, inshallah.
MashaAllah.
I'm actually an Arabic poet.
Oh,
Uh, Yeah, I worked with the Rotana production, the huge music industry.
ما شاء الله.
Um, yeah, and that's it.
جميل والله ما شاء الله. Very talented عبد الله. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay. Thank you عبد الله. Who's next? Dana, would you like to tell us something about you? Dana?
Yeah, doctor.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Uh,
Zena.
I'm a writer. My first book was published in 2021.
ما شاء الله.
Yeah, and it's a story.
Yeah, what kind of writing do you do? I mean, you
Sorry,
write
doctor.
stories,
Yeah,
novels.
I like to be honest, I like writing the stories and novels.
So you're a novelist, a published novelist, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Which means that if when I leave this class and go and check for your book, I'll find it in Jarir, for example, or on Amazon.
If you write لعنة البشر in Google, you can find it immediately. I think تكوين تكوين and راشد.
لعنة البشر.
Yeah.
This is one. ما شاء الله. What's the title? بداية كده يا زينة. What other
If you
titles?
will read the book, you will understand.
Mm. Any other titles?
Yeah.
Do you have other titles?
Inshallah, next 3 months.
إن شاء الله
The second
ممتاز.
part of the same story.
حلو. Great. Okay, Zainab, do you work? I mean, other than writing, do you have a job?
I have my own business. I'm working as an English teacher. I
Mm,
teach students. Yeah.
okay. And I would like you guys to tell me where you are based. I told you that I am here in Jeddah. So how about you, Zainab? Where are you?
المدينة المنورة.
Medina. Inshallah, Medina. Okay, Abdullah, how about you? Where are you based?
I'm in Riyadh, actually.
Riyadh. Nice place. Okay, good. Yeah, let's move on to some other nice people.
Can I share something?
Absolutely, Dana, go ahead.
I'm from Dammam.
Hmm.
I was working in a company for almost 2 years as a HR
Mm.
and reading a lot of books actually.
You what? You write or read?
No, reading.
You read, okay. Of
Yeah,
course. So we have writers, so we need readers, right?
read, yeah.
Okay, Dana, thank you so much. Let's move on to our other.
السلام عليكم.
Alaikum salam.
Um, I'm Fahid Shamari.
Hi,
Um,
Fahad.
I'm 30 years old. I work as manager دعم.
Mm,
I'm studying fiction control. I'm sorry,
mashallah.
doctor. I have information about language English. Huh.
Yeah,
Urban
mashallah.
talk.
Yeah, your English is good,
Sorry,
mashallah.
doctor.
Yeah, thank you, Fahid. Thank you so much. Mm. Who else? We also have Rinad, Lujain, Amani, and Muhammad Ali Marzouk. Yeah, Lujain, go ahead, yeah, Lujain.
As you know, my name is Jane, and I'm a university student. And I have a different. I love reading different categories, including philosophy and physics.
Mashallah.
I'm
Good,
based in
great.
Riyadh.
Riyadh, nice
Yes,
place. Thank you, Lujain.
you're
Nice
most
to
welcome.
meet you. Mm. Rinad,
Hi, my name is Renat. I'm from Dammam. I study in Dammam
okay,
branch.
nice. Thank you, Rinad. Amani, Layla, I'm hopeful that I'm not putting you under the spot, and this is perhaps the reason why you're not reacting. But if you don't want to talk, just don't talk. Muhammad Ali.
Hello, doctor.
Hi, Muhammad.
I am Muhammad Ali. I am a student as English language right now, and I like read the history about the countries how it's made يعني كيف تكونت الدول وكذا استمتع فيها. شكرا
ممتاز.
دكتور.
أهلا بيك. Where are you from يا محمد؟
من الرياض.
رياض. Nice. Okay. طيب. ممتاز. So lovely people, mashallah, different interests, and you all seem and sound very serious to me, and this is very interesting, and this is perhaps what will make the course interesting because I don't want it to go in a non-bi-directional way. I want it to be bi-directional. Bi, of course, you know that bi means two. So it should be a two-way street where I say something and you say something back. You say something and I react to it. We don't want it to go along the lines of me monopolizing the talk and speaking all the time and you doing nothing, listening, and then over time you're going to start to yawn and lose interest and stuff. No, this is a very engaging course and we need to keep it so. By how? By people preparing, going out of their ways and prepare, read, ask questions, write. Now, writing is very important. You need to reflect on what you read uh, because writing can always consolidate whatever knowledge you have. And because writing eventually is how we assess you. We don't assess you based on how you speak on your oral performance, even though oral performance is very important. But our criteria here is primarily uh, in writing. You do exams, whether those exams are quizzes or midterm or final, and they are all in written form. So unless you start to develop, the skill of writing, it can be challenging for you to communicate your thoughts and ideas. And I'm going to try to help you as much as I can with this. Let's agree on some principles, and one of them would be the idea that we talk, we discuss things, and we debate things, and then we can also take it to the next level. You write essays reflecting on the ideas that we talk about here. I sometimes give you prompts and you react to those prompts in writing. This is how we can develop, inshallah. So again, I promise that this is going to be a very interesting course, and we're starting from now. I told you that the course is divided. Let me share. I don't have the revised calendar yet. We haven't received it from the general course coordinator, but I have something similar from the previous semester, and we don't normally change things drastically or dramatically. So I'll share the calendar that I have from last semester, and I'm sure it's going to be the same. It's going to be our roadmap. We're going to have those signposts. Let's talk about them and let's see how we're going to handle that. So let me look for the course calendar. A230A calendar. Yes. So the course calendar is not going to be very different from the one that I'm showing now. Let me first uh, check if you guys can see the calendar. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay,
Yes.
nice. I think I need to make it a little bigger. Yeah. So, as you know, this is, and our semester is, normally between 13 and 15 weeks, and over the space of those 14 or 15 weeks, we do this. We uh, introduce you to the time periods, and we also introduce you to the works that represent those time periods. Again, we normally start with an introduction to the age, and it tells us the introduction introduces us to the ideas and the ideologies of the time, the norms, the social norms, the mores, and all those kinds of things. So this is what we're going to start with. Well, like I said, we're starting with the early modern times. We're focusing on the Renaissance, and we're more specifically focusing on the Elizabethan age. So in order to talk about Othello, for example, which is a play written by Shakespeare in the Elizabethan age, we need to study the time. We need to study the background and have some kind of introduction about the time, what kind of ideas they have, what kind of social structure they have, their traditions, their religions, what they held dear, what they embraced in terms of ideas and ideologies. So this is how we're going to start in order to study Othello, and then also in order to study the Duchess of Malfi. These are all plays. We need to start with some introduction about the time, and this is what we're going to do, inshallah, today. Again, as of next week, we're starting that plays. We're going to start Othello, okay? And we try to apply whatever ideas and ideologies we knew about in the introduction, about the age, to Othello. There are going to be gaps that we need to close, and these are more or less epistemological gaps, ideas that you will not be able to understand um, unless you know about the time and the age. And this is exactly what we're doing with the introduction. So with Othello, we're doing a couple of chapters in the textbook. The first chapter is called William Shakespeare Othello, Impediments to Love. And this is taken from the first book, or the book that we're having, which is called Renaissance and the Long 18th Century. And then we have chapter 2 of the same book, and it's the title of this part on Othello is William Shakespeare, Othello, Honesty and Deference, Men and Women. And then when we're done with Othello in week 3, we'll have the Duchess of Malfi, which belongs to the Jacobean times, and the Jacobean times are very close to the Elizabethan. They have the same structure of feeling, they have the same ideas and ideologies. So the Duchess of Malfi, and this is going to correspond to chapter 3 in the book Renaissance and the Long 18th Century. The chapter is titled John Webster, the Duchess of Malfi, Love and Marriage in the Malfi Court. And then in week 5, we're doing another chapter, which is John Webster, the Duchess of Malfi, Tragic Conflict. And that would conclude part 1. And then this all belongs to the early modern times, where as you can see, the focus is on Elizabethan and Jacobean England. And then we move to the 18th century. And when we move to the 18th century, sorry, when we move to the 18th century, we move to a totally different time, a time where uh, reason or the mind was reigning supreme. This is called aptly the age of reason, where the focus is on rationalism, how to think of and about things in a reasonable, in a rational way. So this is called the 18th century, and we have Candide or Optimism by Voltaire as a representation, and Candide or Optimism is a novella. It's not a full-fledged novel, and it's not a short story either. So it's somewhere in the middle. And Candide is also a translated piece of work. It's not, it is translated from French, and we'll talk about that when the time is right. And then when we finish Candide, we do the midterm. The midterm is based on those works, on Othello, the Duchess of Malfi, and Candide, together with the introduction to the age. So this marks the end of the first half of the semester. And then we move to the second half of the semester after we finish the MTA or the midterm exam, where we're going to do the Romantics, early 19th century, early 19th century and late 18th century. We're doing a number of poets that scholars refer to as the Romantics. One very important example of the Romantics would be William Wordsworth and his poetry. We'll talk about him, and we're going to have a number of poems. And in order to fully engage with the poetry of William Wordsworth, we need to also read about the period. We need to read about the Industrial Revolution. We need to know about the shift from the countryside to the city, what happened, why people started to kind of um, show perhaps dissatisfaction with life, with the government, because there is a political aspect to romantic poetry, make no mistake about it. So we're doing the romantics, we're doing William Wordsworth, we're doing Shelley and his poetry, whether this poetry is about the vocation of the poet, where the poet stands when it comes to the idea of creation, whether we're talking about creation in the big sense of the word or even the creation of poetry. And then we will talk about the other aspects of his poetry. One of them is obviously politics. He was a politically engaged writer, and also history and his sense of history, where he poses as um, a witness to history. He sees history unfolding, and he has something to say about history to human beings like me and you, and also to rulers and kings and queens, and this is going to be the end of our uh, exploration and navigation. Like you see, it's a very interesting journey. It's an epistemological journey where you stand to gain a lot. I promise you. So, do you have any questions so far?
No.
No.
Okay, nice. Okay. So, where should we start? We should start. Our journey is going to start not with the Renaissance or the early modern times, where it's going to start a bit or a little earlier. Like I told you, we're going to start with the medieval or the Middle Ages. And when we talk about the Middle Ages, we talk about this time between perhaps the 6th or the 5th century, Common Era, to the 11th and the 12th century. So this is a time when Europe was not doing very well in terms of development, in terms of civilization. They were invaded by the Goth, and those barbaric tribes managed to obliterate uh, and cancel and delete the European culture. So Europe went back to a state of barbarism, went to a state of feudalism, where only a few had all the privileges while the rest of the population were suffering and struggling. And the quite few people that enjoyed all the privileges were the clergy, the people of the church. People started to uh, use religion, and religion became uh, um, domineering and in control, and everything was interpreted in terms of religion. And people were kind of were they were not open-minded enough to allow other knowledge, kinds of knowledge, and other sciences to flourish. If you talk to them about chemistry, they don't agree. They relegate stuff to religion. If you talk about physics, um, philosophy, no, they wouldn't show uh, uh, interest in these things. I'm talking about the people in control, and the people in control, like I told you, were uh, uh, the church and its people. So it's only natural that in an atmosphere like this, where freedom of expression is stifled, where everything is interpreted in terms of religion, it's only natural that you would have a state of decadence, a state of um, backwardness. People were backward. There was um, very little literacy, if any. People were unable to read and write. And in order for them, for example, to read their holy book, the Bible, for example, they would need an intermediary. And the intermediary in this case would be church people. So even your sacred book, you are unable to read because you are illiterate. You cannot read or write. So imagine a society where you have a few people who are able to read and write, and the rest of the population, massive numbers of people are unable to read and write. So this is obviously uh, um, an atmosphere and environment that was not conducive to good learning and advancement and civilization. And it's only natural that even the economic system that they would adopt would be monopolistic. Monopolistic in the sense that you have a few people who are holding everything in their hands, all the economic threats. They have the land, they have the money, and they employ everybody else in their lands. So The majority of population are working the lands of a few people, and this is what we call the feudal system, نظام الإقطاعي. So in this feudal system, you have the lord, or you have the feudal lord who is in control of all the land, and all the people are working for him. They are more or less like serfs and slaves. Even when he decides to kind of sell the land, he can sell it with the workers or the people on it. So it wasn't a fair and just kind of society. So again, you have illiteracy. People are not able to read and write. People are very poor. No civilization. Religion is all in all. The people of religion and the Pope are in full control. So it's only natural that the literature that people produce at the time is reflective of this sad state of affairs. And the literature that we're using, or that was uh, kind of that was there at the time, was all um, simple kind of literature. It wasn't deep enough. It was all more or less like very didactic in the sense that it gives you moral lessons, religious lessons. Remember, in order for the government to reach out to people, now we have newspapers, we have lots of ways as how the government can tell you do this and don't do that. This is the new law that we have set. You have to follow, for example, certain laws. There are many ways that the government now can reach out to us through the internet, through television, through the media, newspaper, for example, newspapers. But during the time in the Middle Ages, people were unable to read and write. So you don't have many resources that can educate people. The only way would be to employ and use art to do that. And of course, because there wasn't flourishing and advancement, even the literature that was there at the time was very basic and very simple, and it was made up of plays like the mystery play and the morality play. So the morality play and the mystery play were the only two types of literature that was common at the time. Again, that structure is very simple. They are far from being complex or deep. So morality plays are about morality. Those were very superficial kinds of plays that are based on the idea of giving morals, teaching the audience moral lessons. And the idea would be that we have abstractions, we have the qualities in life like love, patience, generosity, and you also have other qualities like avarice, greed, gluttony, pride, and those different life qualities are competing with each other in those morality plays. So those qualities, those abstractions are given human embodiment. We have actors representing those qualities. And of course, those qualities compete. And eventually, the good qualities like goodness, like generosity, like gentleness, like humility, they win over the bad qualities like greed and avarice and envy and gluttony and all those kinds of qualities. So as you can see, it's very straightforward and it's very basic. This is called morality plays, and the best play that comes readily to mind in this case would be Every Man. where obviously the character of every man is a representation of every man, every one of us. Another kind of play that was also common during the time was mystery plays. And mystery here would refer to the guilds or the professions. If you work as a coupler, if you work as a carpenter, as a farmer, you have those professional associations. And obviously, they used to produce plays that reflect their concerns and their ideas about life. Again, this was a basic type of plays where, again, the focus was on religion and on morality. So this is the time period that we refer to as the medieval period or the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages. And by now, you know why we call that time or those times dark, because of the lack of enlightenment, the lack of civilization, the lack of learning, true learning, no philosophy, no science, no physics, only theology, only religious texts. Um, we move on and we go to the early modern times. We move on to the Renaissance. And the Renaissance is this time period that starts in the 12th century, where people started to uh, kind of feel that obviously focusing on morality and focus on religion and interpreting everything in terms of religion wouldn't is not actually helping. They are still poor, they are still uneducated. They wanted more. They looked to the east and they have seen, for example, Muslims and Arabs very well educated, having a big civilization. And when they checked, they saw that Arabs translated the works of the Greeks and the Romans, and they are using their minds, and they allow philosophy, and they allow physics and science, and that's why they are advanced. So, inspired by what the Arabs and the Muslims did, starting from the 8th century until the 12th and the 13th century, the Europeans started to think of ways as how they can advance themselves. And they did that by reviving interest, by having resurgence in Greek and Roman learning. They said, well, let's look at what happened before the Goths came, before the 5th century. And when they checked, they found that their ancestors, the Greeks and the Romans, left them a great legacy of learning. There was flourishing philosophy, there was flourishing learning, technology, science, physics. So they started to kind of restore trust in these old things. They went all the way to the Greeks and the Romans, and they started to get inspired by the works of the Greeks and the Romans. Of course, you did the Greeks when we did Socrates and Aristotle, right? Remember? And Plato in AA 108, right? When you did philosophy. So these were times, very beautiful times. So the Europeans went all the way to the Greek and Roman learning. They dig deep and they learned a lot from them, and this is why we're calling it Renaissance. And Renaissance means rebirth. So there was a rebirth, and what is it that is reborn? It is the ancient Greek and Roman philosophies, the ancient Greek and Roman learning, physics, science, chemistry, biology, you name it. The Renaissance, this educational and cultural movement, started in the 12th century, and it started in Italy, and it went all the way to the other parts of Europe. Our focus is neither on Italy nor on Europe. Our focus is on England because England is, of course, part of Europe, but we're doing English literature. That's why the focus would be on England. So England was affected by this uh, um, Renaissance movement, affected very heavily. The English started to also learn new things. The English started to show interest in learning, and were focused on the time of Queen Elizabeth I, because she was a patron of the arts and science. She was obviously well read and well educated, and she encouraged people to also read and write and to understand stuff beyond the confines of religion. Religion was there, admired and respected, but it has its place. There is obviously, according to them, more to life than just religion. This is exactly what they did. So they started to show advancement. They started to go beyond the confines of the European continent. They went to other parts of the world. They started trade with people in China, in the Mughal Empire, in India, and other places around the world. Again, the literature coming out of this period, inspired by this period, is going to also reflect this period. So this period, the Renaissance, is about learning, is about philosophy, is about physics, is about science and medical and technological development. So it's about good governance, no feudal system anymore. We're talking about nation states. We're talking about kingdoms where the power is now not in the hands of the Pope or in the hands of the clergy. The power now is a secular kind of power. It is in the hands of the king or the queen. And this is obviously a development. And with the idea of governance and good government, we would have the idea of hierarchy, where people in society are divided in into classes. They are divided into sections and levels. And the idea would be that you have to respect where you are on the hierarchy. So you have typically you have the king or the queen on top of the hierarchy, and then you have the nobles, you have perhaps the royal family in the second level, and then you have the ministers, and then you have the common people, and then at the end you would have, you know, commoners and people who are not very well educated. So this is a hierarchy that people have to respect. You also have corresponding hierarchies, and this is the political hierarchy. You also have a cosmology or a or logical hierarchy, where, of course, you have God on top of the hierarchy, and then you have the angels, and then you have human beings, and then after human beings, you have animals, and then down to stones and dust. This is also the cosmology that they believed in. And again, the very important thing about hierarchy is the idea that you have to respect those hierarchies. Respect them means that you don't challenge the philosophy behind them. You don't wake up in the morning tomorrow and say, I want to be a king. No. Or you, as a human being, for example, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to be another king, like another god, like Dr. Faustus did. Did you do Dr. Faustus?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
doctor, I can't recall.
Yeah, Dr. Faustus did just, he woke up one morning and said, I want to be another god. Is that acceptable?
No, of course.
Of course
No.
not. What happened to him? Do you still remember what happened to him at the end? He was damned.
The
He was thrown into hellfire for the simple reason that he didn't respect the hierarchy. So if we're talking about living in a society that has rules and regulations, you have to respect those rules and regulations. So again, let's go back to the hierarchy in society. So you have the ruler, you have the king or the queen or the president, and then you have ministers, and then you have down to the common people. We have yet another corresponding hierarchy, which is the hierarchy of race. Race, and when we talk about people and we say those are Middle Eastern people, those are Jewish, those are African, those are Caucasians, Europeans, these are all races. The Chinese and the people in the Far East are being referred to as Mongolian, for example. So you also have a hierarchy of race. Of course, on top you would have the Europeans, the white Europeans, and then you have perhaps the yellow races down to the black people at the end. Okay? So again, you have to respect this hierarchy. Hierarchy of color and hierarchy of race. What happens if you're black? Okay, if your race is you're being African or black, and you're trying to, for example, to marry a white woman or girl. According to the logic of the 16th and the 17th century, this is not acceptable. We may accept it now, for example. My father is black and my mother is white, and there was nothing wrong with them getting married to each other and bringing me to life. But would that have been accepted in the 16th century? What do you think?
No, of course not.
The
No,
answer is
no, of
no.
course.
No. So what
they were
happens
so
if you, yeah, go ahead, yeah, Layla.
They were so racist at the time.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So this is a no, no, right? So if you challenge this established order, you are in deep trouble. Okay? So if you have a play that discusses that, if you have a play where the two main characters are an African man and a white European woman, and they are reaching out, they fell in love with each other, and they got married eventually. Would the white society accept that?
No,
no.
No. So obviously they are challenging the established order. What happens to them at the end? Do you think they will get away with it? No, I promise
Are we
you,
talking
no.
about Othello, Doctor?
Yes, yes. We're talking about Othello. We're talking also about the Duchess of Malfi because we have a similar scenario where the Duchess is on top. She is the queen, and she's reaching out and she wants to get married to a commoner, an ordinary person. Is that acceptable according to the hierarchy?
No.
No, right? What happens to her? You don't want to know, but we will know later. Okay? So this is the basic idea. We're not reading things from the perspective of the 21st century where, yeah, you can marry whoever you want. Even in the 21st century, we have issues. Remember this royal family member, what's his name? Harry? Is
Yeah,
married
Harry and Meghan.
Meghan. What kind of problems do we have? Every day they are on the pages of magazines, scandals of all types. Obviously, this is all perhaps promoted by the British intelligence service. And bottom line, they are not happy, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
So,
yes.
eventually they
yeah,
left the royal family.
yeah. So even in the 21st century, we have issues with interracial marriages and interfaith marriages, right? So let alone the 16th and the 17th century. So again, you would ask the question whether why would someone like Shakespeare give us something like this? And what happens if we get to know that at the end, Othello and Desdemona, the white girl, are going to, Othello is going to strangle and kill her, and then he realizes that she was good and everything, and then he kills himself. So if this is their end, so people would speculate and say, is is Shakespeare trying to give us a lesson? Is is Shakespeare a pro-government kind of guy? Is Shakespeare trying to say, is he a traditionalist? Is he regressive and reactionary? Ragai, he wants people to stick to their place. These are all, yeah, absolutely, Abdullah. These are all questions that we need to engage with and grapple with. It's not, there is no simple yes or no answer. There is a great deal of nuance in the middle that we need to think of and consider. So as you can see, this is lovely. This is lovely. Lovely in the sense with and this idea of engagement with the text is going to be lovely. Of course, the events are far from lovely because we have a great deal of bloodshed. There is a great deal of suffering and agony because of the intricacies involved. You're talking about again people challenging the established order and not getting away with it, killed at the end. So obviously, killing is bad. Um, so this is the time of the Renaissance, and more specifically, the time of the Elizabethan age when Queen Elizabeth I was ruling. Again, it was a rich time in terms of scientific discoveries and financial support for science, medical advancement, geographical discoveries. So it was um, time of advancement, and the plays that were written reflect just that. We're talking about government and good governance. We're talking about established order. We're talking about respecting hierarchies and never challenging them. Um, let's talk about the kind of literary express, I mean, forms that people would use in order to express and communicate those ideas. If you still remember, when we spoke about the Middle Ages, we spoke about the mystery plays and uh, um, the morality plays. When we talk about the Renaissance and especially Elizabethan age, we speak about drama. Drama was the chosen form of literary expression. Of all the other genres like poetry, like perhaps the essay drama, and plays stood out as the most important and as the most expressive. And the most important type of drama was tragedy. The concept of tragedy is varied, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And we're going to also focus on revenge tragedy. So, of all the types of tragedy, we'll have the revenge tragedy that has conventions that we're going to talk about and we're going to detect in the two plays, whether we're talking about Othello or the Duchess of Malfi, because they are tragedies, because they are revenge tragedies. So this is the Elizabethan age, and let me also remind you of the fact that uh, um, during the time there was this patronage system, which is obviously equivalent to what we have now as the system of sponsorship. You can, if you're holding an event or something, you can have a sponsor. It can be a company, it can be um, a factory, right? During the time, because plays were very uh, expensive to finance, because plays were meant to be uh, kind of staged, not read. So you need to have a stage or a theater, and you need to furnish it. So obviously, these were things beyond the financial means of the playwright. The playwright or the dramatist was not, or when they at the time they were not rich, so they would need the support, the financial support of people in high places, whether we're talking about merchants, companies, people in government. And this was called the system of patronage. So Shakespeare was a recipient of funds by sponsors and by patrons. And lots of scholars are perhaps referring to the fact that in many of his plays, you can sense this idea of this streak of conservatism in his plays, where Shakespeare is normally on the side of traditions, and perhaps you have daring revolutionary characters, but you need to look at what happens to them at the end. They are defeated at the end, which is perhaps a sign or an indication that Shakespeare was not with them. He doesn't believe that we should emerge as a revolutionary, as transgressors, transgressing against the established order. People say that perhaps he's doing that because he is trying to please and appease his sponsors, his patrons, people who finance and fund his plays, and that there is merit to this opinion, as a matter of fact. Um, so, as you can see, this is a very interesting journey that we are going to go on together, I promise you. Next time when we meet, I would like you to have started reading Othello. You don't have to understand every single word because this is obviously uh, not very modern English, but at least try. And after you have tried, read a good summary, look at the plot and see what happens, and then kind of detect whatever I was saying in the play Othello. The idea of hierarchy of race and hierarchy of color, the idea of established order and whether the characters are respecting this established order or going against it and what happens to them. Look at the play as a tragedy and check what a tragedy is. Look at the play as part of the tradition of the what we call revenge tragedy. And I would like you to read this. I would like you also to read the introduction to the age. I'll stop on this note and with this item, but before we go, I would like to check if you guys have any questions. Any questions?
No, Doctor.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor.
Fine.
Have a nice day.
I think somebody was like creating a WhatsApp group, and I don't mind to be included in the group. Do you have my number?
Um, yeah, we don't have your number, Doctor, but the group is by an admin that's called Mahmoud,
No,
and she's
no, no, listen. I don't want to be part of any common or general group or public group. If you
yeah,
are
it's a
going,
general group.
yeah, if you're going to create a WhatsApp group for our class and for our semester, let me know and I can be part of it. Otherwise, no. Uh, okay. طيب يا جماعة, on this note and with this item, we come to the end of today's lovely class, and I'll see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
عليكم السلام.
Bye bye.
عليكم السلام.